सर्वे मम भाषणं भाषाद्वयमाध्यमेन शृणुयुः, संस्कृतम् आङ्ग्लभाषा च। तत्र मम ये विचाराः सन्ति तेषां अनुवादः तत्कालमेव भवेत्, अतः तत्र एकस्मिन् एव समये भाषाद्वयश्रवणं युष्माकं भविष्यति। Mr. Ralston, I am very happy that you are here, and I will be speaking in 2 languages, is what I said just now. Several points about the importance of Sanskrit have already been made, and I don't wish to repeat them, so I will just skip some of the things I had written on this piece of paper and tell you what I think has not been touched upon so far. बहुभिः वक्तृभिः अद्य संस्कृतमाहात्म्य विषये बहवः विचाराः श्राविताः। तेषां विचाराणां पुनरुच्चारणम् अहमत्र कर्तुं न इच्छामि, अतः तान् विचारान् परित्यज्य ये नूतनाः विचाराः तान् परामृश्य अहम् अत्र वक्तुं प्रयतिष्ये। There are only 5 languages in the world that have taken culture to other parts of the world. That is, parts other than where they are normally spoken, where they are national languages or local languages. This is the view of Edward Sapir, one of the original linguists in the American tradition of linguistics. These 5 languages are Latin, Greek, Arabic, Classical Chinese, and Sanskrit. तत्र जगति पंच एव भाषाः सन्ति, याभिः भाषाभिः स्वीया संस्कृतिः अन्येषु देशेषु संक्रामिता, अन्येषु देशेषु तस्याः परिचयकारिता। संस्कृतं तासु भाषासु एका भाषा वर्तते। Among all these languages, Sanskrit has 2 distinctions. First of all, it has the richest literature, and it is still a living language. It is a language that is still being spoken. Some of these languages have gone out of use. Arabic is a minor exception in the sense that classical Arabic and modern Arabic are not very different, I am told. So classical Arabic is continuing in a way, but classical Chinese is not understood by modern Chinese speakers. They have developed a specialization in it. And Greek and Latin, you already know that after the 19th century, slowly their usage has dropped off. There are, of course, some very enthusiastic colleagues, friends of ours, who are trying to bring those back, languages, especially Latin, back into communication, which is very good. So you will see that among these 5 languages, Sanskrit is a distinctive language, has a distinctive place in the world. एतासु पंचभाषासु संस्कृतं वैशिष्ट्यं धारयति। अधुनैव मया उक्तं तद् वैशिष्ट्यं नाम भाषायाः समृद्धि, साहित्यस्य समृद्धि। अन्यच्च संस्कृतम् अद्यापि प्रचलति, संस्कृतं नाम जीवन्ती भाषा अस्ति, तस्याः न अस्तः अभूत् इति अस्माभिः मनसि करणीयम्। Now, on the richness aspect, I would like to expand a little bit. Sanskrit has both science and literature in the sense of belles lettres, sahitya in the sense of sahitya, good literature you would enjoy reading. It has both in extensive quality, and whatever was science known in ancient times has found expression in Sanskrit. And some of these sciences are what we would call hard sciences, for example, astronomy, mathematics. Physics and chemistry did not exist in Sanskrit under those names, but there were several other branches of learning where you find insights of physics and insights of chemistry. So you have in the scientific branch what we call Shastra in Sanskrit. You have hard sciences as well as what we would call social sciences, soft sciences, and so on. They are spread in a different way. They are organized in a different way. That's why sometimes people make remarks out of ignorance, saying, for example, Sanskrit has no psychology. There is hardly any ancient language which has more psychology than Sanskrit. Just as the psychology is spread out in the Buddhist tradition, in the yoga tradition, in the linguistic tradition, and so on. So we have to understand the extent of knowledge and the importance of that knowledge in Sanskrit. We have to reorganize some of these things, and we have to we will then be able to see how rich those are. For example, there is in linguistics and literature there is a branch of study which is called semantics. It is the study of meaning. Semantics, semiotics, these are the studies of meaning. And sometimes I get a statement saying Sanskrit has no semantics. Tatra bahava shastra shakha santi param tatra ka shakha vartate iti asmabhi sarvam sanskrit vangmyam alocya sarvasya vangmyasya alodanam krutva anantaram nirdharaniyam. रसायन शास्त्रं नास्ति, भौतिक शास्त्रं नास्ति इति न मनसि करणीयम्. एवमेव सेमांटिक्स अर्थशास्त्रं नास्ति इत्यपि न मनसि करणीयम्. The study of semantics is spread through about 20 branches of Indian philosophy, the branches of grammar and so on. So we should be very careful. I sometimes say jokingly to my students that if in the ancient times, say 4th, 5th century AD, when Sanskrit was really flourishing in many ways, right from about 1200 BC to 4th century BC, we have 4th century AD, we have a blossoming and growth of Sanskrit. I say to my students, if in those days people needed a babysitter, Sanskrit would have a manual for babysitters as well. Shishubala Vidya. एवं तत्र बहवः शाखा वेदाः सन्ति. You will be surprised to know that there is a Chora Shastra in Sanskrit. And the Chora Shastra is how to commit a burglary, how to soften the walls, how to carve a hole, how to enter a house. Fortunately for all of us, very little of this science survives. Otherwise, it would be a difficult thing. But remember, this shows the intellectual curiosity. This shows the strength of the interest people had in systematizing things. And that's why you find all subjects touched upon. The frame of 4 Purusharthas that Sanskrit created was very conducive to the development of all these sciences. Tatra Chatvara Purushartha Sanskrit Bhashayam Upavarnitaha. Tesham Purusharthanam Vishaye Bahu Vangmayam Vartate. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Dharma you may call spiritual life. Religion is not exactly the right word for Sanskrit. For Dharma, it captures some of it, but not everything of it. Dharma, Artha, you might say political economy or economics, science of public economics. Then gaining of material wealth, material prosperity, that is Artha. Kama, sensual pleasures. People frequently mistranslate it as sexual science. No, it's sensual science. And how our indriyas, how our senses grasp the rest of the world. How can we make the experiences pleasant and so on. And then moksha, which is the antithesis of all these 3 pursuits, where at a certain stage of your life, you say, I have had enough of this, I have to develop detachment and prepare myself for departing from this world. And so you have dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And kama, sensual pleasures, have never been looked down upon in the Sanskrit tradition. There is a very healthy attitude that life is primarily meant for happiness. We cannot control all factors of life, but we have to make life as happy as possible. So the ancient Indian philosophy is really a philosophy of maximization of happiness. But in this happiness, there is a very important ethical dimension. And that is, if you do not pursue sensual pleasures ethically, ultimately they are not going to satisfy you. Your conscience will bother you. Tatra sadasad vivekaha asti, saha manasi pidam utpadeti. Ataha gitayam uktam dharma viruddho bhuteshu kameshu kamosmi bharadarsha. Yaha kamaha dharmena aviruddha, dharmena saha sangachati. Dharmena sah samanjasyam dhareti, sa eva kamaha, asmakam krite hitavaha. So you have an ethical dimension for your sense of happiness. And that is why there's a very healthy attitude, as you can see. So latest estimate is there are about 5 million Sanskrit manuscripts. They are mostly preserved in India, but you find them in Japan, you find them in Denmark, countries you wouldn't normally associate, especially Denmark, with Sanskrit. But they are those, suppose a work is, these are handwritten copies of course, and suppose you say each work is preserved in about 10 copies. That would be the average. Imagine how many texts we have. Sanskrit never had any kind of exclusive relationship with other languages. So sometimes you find Sanskrit and Prakrit together, sometimes you find Sanskrit and Pali together, sometimes the Prakrit texts are rendered into Sanskrit so that they will be understood all over India. So you see that it is a language that had a very healthy relationship with other languages as well. Coming to Dharma, you will again see that Sanskrit nourished several branches of Dharma. That is, in one sense, Hindu captures all of these things. All Indian religions have several common things.